So guess what? If Putin takes Ukraine, he will then attack a NATO country, and the American military will be fighting the Russian army. Again, why? This is what Joe. Want to hear what Joe Biden says? Here's what Joe Biden said. Let's just.
If Putin takes Ukraine, he won't stop there. It's important to see the long run here.
By the way, Putin already took as much of the Ukraine as he wants. He's got it, and they're not getting it back. And this is your fault because you provoked this war, because you told him not to take the peace deal, and you told him to have the Azov Nazi battalion keep shelling the eastern part of Ukraine, which is the Russian-speaking, the ethnic Russians who didn't want to go along with the CIA coup government. Let's remember how we got here. The United States and the CIA joined with Nazis in Ukraine to overthrow their democratically elected government in 2015. That's what happened. And then the people in the eastern part of Ukraine didn't want to go along with that. So then the Nazis and the Ukraine government started shelling those people in the eastern part of Ukraine, and they wouldn't stop. And they kept ramping it up until Putin finally invaded to protect those people. He didn't invade to start a war. Putin invaded to end a war. And I totally support that. That's what he should have did, because they would have kept killing people until he did that. And so now Joe Biden is pretending like Putin is the aggressor. Putin is not the aggressor. The aggressor is NATO. NATO with our 900 military base. We just built 3 new military bases in frickin' Philippines. Did you know that? We put 2 military bases in Syria, a country we're illegally occupying. But they still think you're dumb enough to buy this shit. You know why? Because most of the people who watch MSNBC, CNN, read the New York Times and the Washington Post are dumb enough to buy this stuff. But they're sick of it, apparently. Let's listen to what he said. Here we go.
If Putin takes Ukraine, he won't stop there. It's important to see the long run here. He's going to keep going. He's made that pretty clear. If Putin attacks a NATO ally, if he keeps going, and then he attacks a NATO ally, well, we've committed as a NATO member that we defend every inch of NATO territory, then we'll have something that we don't seek and that we don't have today. American troops fighting Russian troops. American troops fighting Russian troops if he moves into other parts of NATO. Make no mistake. Today's vote...
First of all, make no mistake is a funny thing to say from someone who makes a shit ton of mistakes. It's like if he started with, don't fall off your bike.
What, do you look into his senile ball to predict the future? He's like he's Merlin here with his amazing predictions.
What? Listen to this prediction. Watch this. Come on.
Make no mistake. Today's vote's going to be long remembered, and history's going to judge harshly those who turn their back on freedom's cause. We can't let Putin win. Say it again. We can't let Putin win. It's in our overwhelming national interest and international interest of all our friends.
First of all, American troops are going to have to fight Russia. What's the big deal? Won't that be okay? Because Russia has been severely weakened by this proxy war. I was told they're just about ready to collapse. Yeah, Putin that's not true? Oh, no shit. So let me bring in the Due Dissidence boys. What do you make of Joe Biden? He's still pretending that we're fighting for freedom in Ukraine. Ukraine, which has barred every adversarial newspaper, outlawed political parties that oppose Zelensky. They're locking up the religious people, shutting down churches. They couldn't be less democracy happening in Ukraine. What do you boys say?
Well, I'll start because Russell is muted. You got to figure out how to turn your mic back on because of the Zoom call when we came back in. No, look, it's just an absolute lie. Putin never wanted Ukraine. The Russians never wanted to fly their flag over Kiev. The terms they laid out at the beginning of the war to avoid the war in the first place would have been a neutral Ukraine, meaning no NATO for Ukraine, independence for those eastern separatist regions, and recognition of the Crimea as Russian. That was it. You agreed to those terms, there'd have been no war, which means he never wanted Ukraine. So this idea that Putin's goal is to take Ukraine and then move through the NATO countries is just absurd on its face. And if you think half a step deeper, You look at the fact that the reason Putin was able to invade Ukraine is because it's not a NATO country, right? That's the whole reason he was able So, I mean, that's what the whole war is about. The whole war is about the fact that he can't invade a NATO country because that would spark a world war. And because he doesn't want a world war, he figured he could go into the eastern parts of Ukraine, which didn't want to be a part of Ukraine really anyway, and conduct this military operation. That's the whole point. So this is just a sack of abject lies. And you're right. The MSNBC brain people fall for it because they have no ability to think for themselves whatsoever. But, you know, like we said in the last segment, this whole narrative is just falling apart. This whole administration has no legitimacy left. They have no hand to play. And so they're stuck with, you know, trotting him out there to say this in front of the cameras. Behind the scenes, Lloyd Austin starts threatening American troops with having to go and actually die themselves. It's just it's very sad, but very funny at the same time.
This kind of propaganda always relies on the NPCs. We say PMCs. We should also say NPCs. It's non-player characters. It's most of the people who buy this kind of propaganda are upper middle class people who this kind of society always relies on because they have just enough to have something to lose, but they don't have enough to actually buck the system. And the more people like that you have, the more of these kinds of horrifying ideas you can sell because you sell it to those people. The problem we're having in America is with the collapsing economy, you have less and less of those people to prop up the system. You have less and less people for whom being a non-player character is worthwhile. In other words, too many of the NPCs are getting red-pilled because there's less and less in it for a greater and greater number of people to prop all this up. Now you're just down to the hardcore nut of the NPCs who are going to watch this and buy this shit.
Do people now? Do people still believe that when you say there's Nazis in Ukraine, that is some kind of Putin talking point, or do they understand that there's real Nazis? That's where the Nazis went after World War II, and that they're real Nazis and they're in their military and they have entire brigades of Nazis. Well, do people still not believe that, or do they? Or the thing I've heard is that, well, every country's got Nazis. Have you heard that one?
Right. Yeah, I've heard that, but more significantly, and this is exactly what I'm saying with NPCs, you can it's very Orwellian. They're just like Orwell's Oceanians. What you told them yesterday, you can tell them to believe the opposite today, and they'll do it. They'll flip on a dime. What I heard from a lot of these people was, yeah, well, they might be Nazis, but there are Nazis, goddamn it. You know, like that's what they got. In essence, I've had a lot of people say, better they be fighting with us than against us. And whenever you hear those people saying that shit, you know that was what the corporate media got together and told them that day. That they drilled into their head, well, if they weren't fighting with us, they would be fighting against us, and it is problematic, and we'll have to take care of it later. And yeah, I mean, what you're saying, I mean, they also have that thrown in. Yeah, every military has Nazis in it, to which I would always respond, not like official Nazi battalions. Like, yeah, like you might
There's
have
no Der Führer quadrant of the Montana National Guard or whatever. Right.
Right. I mean, maybe in reality, but not openly.
Right. And you know that if the shoe was on the other foot, if we were being invaded, I'm sure a bunch of Ukrainians would, jump to the chance to come fight another superpower on our behalf. Ukrainian guy who just got pulled off his bike and thrown into the back of a van for inscription to the military. Yeah, that guy gives a fuck about American democracy right there. Don't you think that guy, the one who we...
the new mass immigrants we're going to funnel into the army. That's Dick
right.
Durbin, as the great Dick Durbin explains.
Oh, I got to show that. Oh, I can't believe I forgot
We're
to
gonna
show.
have some foreign immigrants that are gonna go fight like it's.
So we figured out.
yeah.
I figured out why they have. Well, Kurt showed me this video of Dick Durbin giving a speech the other day. I think I sent it to you.
I saw that. So I'm
going to bring that. I'm going to save that for my Tucker Carlson interview on Tuesday, and it'll be a hoot. And if you're looking for a hoot, this next Friday coming up, December 15th, we're going to be doing stand-up comedy in Studio City. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. Now, Dick Durbin said that we got to make these illegal immigrants. We have to make we have to give them work permits, and we got to let them fight in our military. And if they fight in our military, then we can let them become citizens, because they don't want to fight for their own country. They want to come to someone else's country and join their military. But that doesn't make any sense. But so now you see the game. The game is They want to suppress wages, which was 100% true. Dick Durbin went on to say that, and now they can't meet their recruiting goals and their quotas for the military. Right, because now we got 900 bases. We only had 800. Now we got 900, and they can't. They don't have enough soldiers to staff them all. So now they got to get. They have to literally get immigrants to come join our military, and then reward them with citizenship for doing so. Is that really who you want populating your military? A bunch of people who aren't even fucking citizens?
Rome did, and they turned out fine.
Well, it just goes to what I said earlier, man. They're not going to be able to sell our military on why they're needed in Ukraine if they're needed in Ukraine if they don't get the money. Like, that's a non-starter. So, I mean, yeah, it's insane, but in context, it makes sense. This is what a desperate empire has to resort to.
And Robert De Niro. Go ahead.
The whole healthy at any size thing hasn't caught on with them, so they're fit to serve.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so guys like Robert De Niro and Alec Baldwin and Cenk Uygur and Keith Olbermann, they just ignore this.
Yeah, and they're military Ukraine fighting age, technically.
Turns out.
Yes.
Turns out if they were in Ukraine, they could be inscripted. So, wow. So those people just completely ignore this. They just put on blinders, and they still pretend there's something worse coming, even though Trump didn't do this. Trump didn't do wars. He didn't send hundreds of billions of dollars to a money laundering organization. He didn't do any of this. But they can, because they own the media, thanks to Bill Clinton, they can get people to think this, because there is no alternative media, and the only alternative media that tells you the truth about this, they throttle the shit out of, like they do to our show here.
Of course. Well, the real reason they hated Trump is because he didn't do any of this. That's why they hated Trump.
Right. Well, and they were ready to make up with him. Right. When he launched bombs into Syria.
Yep.
Then they loved him. They wanted to make up. They really did. They gave him every overture. You have Brian Williams there quoting Leonard Cohen, the beauty of our weapons.
Remember that?
You had Van Jones. Oh, tonight he became president of the United States.
That was Fareed Zakaria said that.
That wasn't Van Jones? I thought he was the one who said
Fareed Zakaria. Tonight he was our president.
Yeah. Tonight he was
both say it? I thought
maybe they both said it.
Very possible.
Very possible.
They might have both said it.
Yeah.
And they wanted to make up with him. They wanted to kiss and make up. That was their overture, and he jammed it up their ass, and they never forgave him for that. But if there's anything hopeful here, it's Lincoln's. You can't fool all the people all the time. Our friend Buck Angel, he said, when you hit really hard at reality, it hits back. And these people have been hitting at reality so hard for so long that Donald Trump keeps getting more popular with each indictment. So they have lost their control over the minds of a lot of the population. That's what I mean. They're only down to the hard nut of their base now.
Hey, everybody, I'm going to tell you about a product sponsor. It's Enviro Cleanse, and they're having a huge holiday sale, and I'm going to tell you how to get a discount in a second. But let me tell you I've told this story before. I'll tell you it again. It smelled like mold in my bedroom, and when we moved into our new house, and it smelled like mold, and I was afraid I was going to get sick from it, and I had people come in, and the mold people couldn't find the mold, but it smelled. And so I get this Enviro Cleanse. They send me one, right? And they want me to use it. So I put it in my bedroom. I come back from a weekend away doing comedy, no mold smell, no nothing. It's amazing. It's a great product. It's the one product I'm the most enthused about telling you about. And they say here that the best way to fight a cold or flu is to not get it in the first place. And that's why EnviroCleanse, it's the new science in Homer air purification. And with a limited time holiday sale, you'll save 30%. That you're going to need it. So why did I choose EnviroCleanse over all the others? Well, because they gave it to me. That's why. That's how I chose it. But they tell me here because EnviroCleanse is proven to capture and destroy cold and flu viruses other purifiers miss. It destroys cold and flu viruses. EnviroCleanse military-grade technology wipes out bacteria, toxins, and mold that can make you sick. That's why the Navy chose EnviroCleanse to protect the air on board its Navy ships. Did you know that? Get EnviroCleanse for your home. Right now, you'll save 30% during their holiday sale, plus get fast free shipping. Visit ekpure.com and use the code Jimmy30. That's for 30% off. So that's ekpure.com, and the code is Jimmy30, ekpure.com. We're doing live comedy shows in Oxnard, California, Venice, California, Palmdale, California, Omaha, Nebraska, Des Moines, Milwaukee, Lansing, Michigan, Bend, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, and Boston. Plus, we're going to put a date in Edmonton, Canada, plus Vancouver. See ya. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.